So until local authorities, and I'm quite London-centric, but until local authorities start building in local policies, which include the ability to be able to get a change of use to C5 uses, whatever law the government brings in London is going to be, in my opinion, unless I'm missing something, totally irrelevant in respect of new developments, because every application that's made for a C5 development will be in breach of the local plan and won't be supported by the local authority.
I'm so sorry, I can tell example what I saw, and I was very, very surprised. For one planning permission in London, they was allowing mixture, HMO and C1. So you can pick whatever you want, either you're running as C1 or as HMO. So in London, planners, I can't tell about everything, but just get one example, and I was very nicely surprised that it's already arranged like this, that you have to pick what you want and how you want to trade, and you're absolutely flexible, so you don't need to ask any permission or different permission, just do whatever you want. So, and I found that's very, very nice option how this issue could be done. And C5, it's another regulations, maybe, God knows what it's gonna be, but it would be another option. So maybe we're gonna do C1, HMO, C5. Then would be question, what's the difference between C1 and C5? Mm-hmm. But to be honest, what I wanted to tell that I saw another option, not C5, available in London. And I hope they'll move that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, Gavin. Yes, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot more there. I mean, I think, you know, with grandfather rights, I would anticipate that they're a bit more lenient. I don't think you'd have to have the 10-year, you know, for lawful use, you know, I would presume, because that, you know, let's be fair, service accommodation isn't even 10 years old yet. So that could be quite challenging for a lot of people. The only thing I can sort of compare it to is when you read the Scottish sort of paper that came out. I know they haven't kind of put it out there as it was, and it's now a bit more sort of local centric, but what they had, which was interesting, was if you had 6 or more units in a block and you wanted to run them as serviced accommodation, then you didn't need licensing. So that to me was like, oh, well, that's pretty useful. So I don't know, you know, why they had that in, or if there was something behind that, but that could be, if that was something that was included in the you know, in the English kind of papers and consultation, then that, you know, obviously wouldn't affect these developments, and potentially you wouldn't require it if you had, you know, more of them. I don't know, that's all I saw, and I didn't really know, and I have spoken to a few people about that Scottish part, you know, the section within that, why they had this over 6, then you didn't need to worry about it. To me, that was kind of, again, looking at, like Hamish has mentioned, you know, not really wanting the smaller people. So if you had 6 or more, they felt that you were already, you know, potentially experienced, would be potentially running a, you know, a correct business, so to speak. I don't know, but that would be one to think about. So just yeah, so Gavin, I don't know whether you've heard anything or anything's been mentioned about this 6 or more.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. I just think that, I mean, you spoke about licensing. Are you talking about licensing in terms of HMO licenses?
Well, obviously, if we have to get a license for serviced accommodation, you know, whether it's, you know, because even now there's some buy-to-lets in certain parts of the country where they're asking you to pay to be allowed to run it as a buy-to-let, even though you've got the correct use class. So whether that's going to come in as well, yeah, like we have with HMOs, not only do you have to get the correct use class, if it's required, you also have to get licensed as well.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, anything that the government can do, especially at the moment with the housing crisis that we've got, but anything the government can do to make sure licensing is required, to make sure the quality of accommodation tenants have in the UK is up to sufficient standard in terms of its quality and in terms of its, most importantly, in terms of fire safety, they'll keep in place. So I very much doubt that licensing will be relaxed, and the only way I think that they'll be able to keep control of regulation in terms of service accommodation is somehow through the planning system, because through the planning system they have the powers of enforcement, so they'll actually have a remedy for people that are using their properties for an unlawful use.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, I think it is to do with, the housing shortage, but I think it's also to do with the fact that the government are having to claw back as much money as they can anywhere and anything. I
think, as I said, mainly involved in buying sites, getting planning and selling them, but do buy investments as well. And everyone screams and shouts at me that I should be doing SA, but I'm actually quite nervous about the strategy and about the saturation of SAs currently out there in the marketplace. I know people are doing really well out of it. I just did 3 flats in Greenwich and thought long and hard about doing Airbnb, and then decided to rent them all out on ASTs. With the increase in rental values, I balanced up that against the cost of running an SA and against the risk of void periods, and would prefer to take a lower rent with much less hassle, aggravation, be able to sleep at night and not worry about how much I'm actually going to be getting in every month. And on other rooms this morning, I have heard stories of people who are struggling with their SAs and are, as a consequence, struggling to make mortgage payments. So I'm quite experienced and happy to take risk, but on other things can be quite risk averse, I think.
Yeah,
Gavin, I wouldn't say. Sorry. I wouldn't say that you're risk averse there, Gavin. I think it's all about doing your due diligence. And there are so many people that just jump on AirDNA or just ask a local SA management company, do you think I can do SA here? And they're like, yeah, and then they jump on board, and then suddenly, as you say, that area is oversaturated. It's so key that we've got to do our due diligence to make sure that the area can hold and is a growth area. I love emerging markets because I think those are really great, but even with the bigger ones, I can't remember, it was like I was doing something around sort of Windsor, and there was literally nothing available last weekend, this week. I mean, you've got various other things coming up. Obviously you had a half term and stuff, but it's understanding that it is a full year as well. One should always be looking at the full year. But yeah, I'm totally with you, Gavin. It sounds like we should all have another conversation here. There's some similarities. I might catch up with you and send you a DM, Gavin, because there's a couple of things that we're doing in London. It might be worth a chat about.
And there's also the legislation risk now as well. So that's just another risk that I sort of could foresee. And I looked on Airbnb, and there was quite a lot of flats available in the immediate proximity, and there was quite a lot of voids there. I didn't do a huge amount of diligence, probably as much as I should have done, but I just feel like sometimes it was a place that tourists go and see the Cutty Sark and what Greenwich has to hold for a day, but don't necessarily want to stay there. So anyway, I made the decision that I made, and I'm happy with it, and I got some pretty strong rent. So, sorry, I think Hamish wanted to come in.
Yeah, apologies,
Well,
Hamish.
I was just going to say, Gavin. I mean, I've had a quick look at your profile, and you've got a lot of knowledge and experience about getting planning and navigating the planning system. So I found it interesting that your concern was more the operation of it rather than the planning and the legislation side of things. And it'd be interesting to hear more of your view on what you think about how to navigate the planning and legislation side. But in terms of the operating service accommodation, I think this goes back to what Emma was saying, as what differentiates us is those who do it as a sideline, and those who get strongly educated and find out a little bit more about how to run it efficiently and successfully. Having worked in a tourism background for quite a few years, one of the things we were aware of was you've got to keep adapting to the market to keep ahead of your competitors. And it doesn't matter that more and more people are popping up doing exactly the same thing. You can stay stronger than that, so long as you're able to swing with the punches, as it were. But yeah, going back, I mean, I was kind of more interested in your opinions of how to navigate the planning process, because you've obviously got a lot of experience in that.
Yeah, how long have we got?
Not long. I think we're out of time.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I just find that the planning. I mean. I just find that the planning process is a constant sort of moving target. I think my current state of play is I had an interesting meeting with one local authority last week. What we have done historically is do a pre-app, submit a planning application, and then negotiate with local authorities through the application process. And one local authority who are significantly under-resourced says to us, we won't negotiate during the planning process. You'll do a pre-app, you'll submit an application, and we'll determine that application. We haven't got time to go back and forward with the developer to say your bin stores are not big enough. Your roof design is sort of not in keeping. Your unit sizes are not compliant. What we will do is we'll refuse it. We haven't got the resources to go back and forward. So they want everything washed out at the pre-app stage, and this is where I sort of see it going. And I don't really sort of mind that, because at least you know where you'll stand. So they don't want one sort of.
Oh, I've lost Gavin.
They want 2 or 3 pre-apps to nail everything down prior to submitting an application. And then once you submit an application, they're saying they will determine it in the statutory period. Well, that is, that's gold to me, because at least I know I'll get a decision in 8 or 13 weeks, depending on whether it's a minor or a major application. And I can use the pre-app process as long as it's pretty quick, as long as I get a pre-app within 2 to 3 weeks of making the application, and sit down with the planners and actually nail out all the infinite details to make sure that they're happy with the scheme prior to submitting an application. And that's the way I sort of see it going.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Thank you, Gavin. And look forward to catching up outside of this. Well, look at that. It's top of the hour. We did have Joy who jumped up, but she has now gone. So sorry, Joy, to have missed you. But yeah, I think inherently, I think we're all in an agreement that yes, there is legislation coming in. We must keep an eye out on it, be aware of it. But inherently, it shouldn't really stop us at this stage. Keep going, because you never know what's going to change around the corner. Nothing's in place yet. So keep going, keep being professional, obviously, and working forward in that. So awesome. Well, look, thank you so much. Hamish, do you have a closing comment for us?
No, but I think the general story with property investing is there's never a bad time to get in. Just get in and keep going at it, and the longer you're in it, the better it gets.
Absolutely. And how about yourself, Ingrid? Anything else? that you wanted to add?
Honestly, the same. There is never ever what we're telling. There is never ever a good time to buy property. Just buy property and wait, and things happening in your way as well. But again, due diligence is very important. In this case, we will see what will happen. We can talk as much as we want. I believe they don't know themselves what we're gonna create, and when they will create, we will need to follow it. Otherwise, we will be doing something unlawfully. So, but I don't know. I'm very positive. Whatever what we're gonna create, it wouldn't kill our businesses. It just would be amendments, and that's it. And we're talking about 1.5 years, maybe 2.5 years. And God knows how everything would be structured. So it's so much to wait till more clarification will come. So, but just don't stop, move, take more properties if they're working and profitable for you, and happy days.